Before we get started with today's podcast, we'd like to ask returning listeners to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you really enjoy it, share a link to this podcast with friends or family who would enjoy hearing our weekly discussions about basketball and basketball culture. Now, on to the show.
Jim, isn't it amazing when Michigan can keep this game to a 19-foot 9-inch game inside that three-point line? It's all theirs. Nice move by Steve Fisher here. Turn it into the 19.
Welcome to the 19-9 podcast, the best and maybe only retro college basketball podcast. I'm Aaron Meyer. I'm here with my co-host, Josh Barnett. What's up, Josh?
What's up? What's up?
He's showing off some Seattle Supersonics gear that Bry Vogel's going to be jealous of. Man, why is he jealous? I'm jealous of that look. It's dope. I love it.
I might keep it. No telling.
It's going to be like the hat that everyone tries to steal. It'll be up on his shelf and someone tries to take it.
Yep. It would become a.
So on today's show, we got a mashup involving your release of the Danny Manning and the Miracles / Hinrich, Collison, Final Four, Kansas Jayhawks. And I honestly just wrote like Kansas on this one because this is you guys make everyone feel great, but Kansas is just, they're on another level, right?
Yeah, but the Danny Mannings aren't coming for another month.
Does that mean I need to start over?
I might not watch games, Meyer, but I at least know the products that are dropping for these things. All right?
This is showing my
so
professionalism.
I don't want to hear another word about me not being prepared for these things.
Well,
no. So we're dropping, or we dropped, I should say, the 91 Adonis Jordan, Mark Randall, that group. From 91 that got beat by Duke in the national championship. But that was one of the crazier stories as I was researching it too, which I'm sure we'll get into. So that was a lot of fun with the 91 shorts and then the 03s, like you said. And then we have a special release lined up coming for the Final Four for the 88 Danny Mannings. But our practice shorts that we also launched are 1988 practice shorts.
That's what I was thinking.
Everybody knows those practice shorts from 8. You didn't know that, man.
Good recovery, though, right? That's key to life.
Yep.
But anyways, Kansas. So I started here with them, and I'm like, I don't even know where to go with Kansas because it's so different because they are the literal history of not just college basketball, but basketball. Their court is named Dr. James Naismith Court. The first coach of the school is the guy who invented basketball. Phog Allen, you got Adolph Rupp, you've got Dean Smith, Wilt Chamberlain. And I wanted to shout out John McClendon too, because I think that he is just like a super interesting part of Kansas's history that I want to deep dive into later. I heard about him honestly first in the Boys of Baltimore book, talking about how he invented the fast break and how he had all these ties back to the dawn of basketball. And I just think it's cool how tied into the history of the sport that Kansas is.
Yeah, for sure. And then they have the rules of basketball, the 30 for 30 that was done. There's no place like home, and the rules of basketball there. And it is fitting, right? It's like I always thought that Kansas, everybody that listens to the pod knows that we're two IU homers and we both went there. But I've always felt like there was this synergy or this connection between Indiana basketball and Kansas basketball where they kind of mirror each other with tradition and just some of the stories and some of the coaching legends and that type of thing. Now I would trade IU success over the last 20 years with Kansas, but they might trade some of our banners too, because we have a couple more. So
it is a weird thing. We've talked about blue bloods.
It's an interesting thing though, like it's very, very interesting. But yeah, like Kansas was a big get, and I'm obsessed with Phog Allen Fieldhouse. I'm obsessed with the Payheed banner. And so Kansas was like a must. And when we got it, we felt really, really good about ourselves.
Yeah.
We were feeling ourselves.
15 Final Four, 6 runners-up, 3 championships. And so I think that thinking about them too and talking about championships, I thought again, like how much is just luck, right? It's just a break. They could have easily won, including the team that we're going to talk about tonight. We dug into this 2003 team. They're certainly a championship caliber team. There are many years where they would have won it had things.
And they were. And they were in 2002 as well.
Right.
You know, that's that back-to-back Final Four team where they wore the same shorts. So you could call our shorts 2002 or 2003 if you wanted to. But yeah, a ton of luck goes into winning the tournament. Like that is what it is. And you know, you could look back and you could say, well, they were championship contenders in 02 and 03 and could have easily won those, but they also could have easily lost to Memphis and only had 2 in 08 if Chalmers doesn't hit the 3, and if John Calipari's teams can ever make free throws, that never happens. Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is. But the thing that amazes me about Kansas is their consistency, and then that 13 consecutive or however many consecutive it was Big 12 championships. Like, that's insane. And I remember like having conversations the last couple years. Like, I always think of, and for some reason Kansas always comes to mind in this. I'm like, 150 years from now when we're no longer here, where are they going to hang all of their Big 12 championship banners? Like, at what point, like, how does it, like,
yeah,
fill
you stop
up?
having the banners. That's what you do, like the Celtics, like they have with the you don't hang an individual banner for each jersey that you retire.
Okay,
you just have one banner with like 5
right.
5 of them on
but
there.
my point is, do that.
Yeah.
And if you run off 150 straight Big 12 championships like they were in the midst of doing, that's still a shit ton of banners that they're going to have to hang just to encompass all of the years.
No doubt about it. Yeah, the legacy, too, of their home court, like the winning percentage on that. I know that's on your bucket list of home courts to see, certainly on one of mine. And that, like, 85% of the games there through the history, 100-year plus history, that's incredible. It shows just – and it's just one of those old-school places with benches instead of – seats in some places that makes
it's
it
a
sound.
field house,
yeah,
right?
It makes it sound
we have
crazy.
We have a soft spot in our heart for anything that's named Fieldhouse. If you've listened to our pod, you know that we love Hinkle Fieldhouse. You know that I wish Maryland would have kept Cole Fieldhouse as their basketball arena. And then you have Allen Fieldhouse, and that is for sure a bucket list. And we're going to get there. Damn you, COVID. We will get there at some point in our lives. We will make it to Kansas to watch a ball game.
I got a first audio clip. We're going to be talking about the 2003 Final Four game versus Dwayne Wade and Marquette. So I got a few audio clips. I'm going to hit the first one. Here we go.
Blowout.
The Kansas Jayhawks will have to start, of course, with Nick Collison, who had that monster game against Duke, the single performance of the tournament with his 33 in that win.
He was sensational in that ball game. Had a stretch in 7 minutes. He made 12 straight points. First team All-American.
Hinrich, after an off night against Duke, boy, he came back and was the star against Arizona.
He really did. He came up big. He's a second-team All-American player, first-team All-Big 12 player, a brilliant backcourt matchup with Collison.
I mean, they had just an unbelievable team, starting with Collison and Hinrich, I think. Just those two guys. We had Paul Shirley on, and it is crazy to think how good that Iowa State team would have been had those two guys gone to Iowa State. But they just fit perfectly together. They stay for 4 years. They're just kind of the prototypical guys who could lead a college basketball team. A great guard, a great big guy. Both of them had great pro careers too, but you can see why, because they're just awesome players.
Yeah, and they had to go through Duke and Arizona, like what was mentioned. That Arizona team was really, really good and loaded.
Yeah. One of your favorite players Duke, on there.
Jason Gardner, my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my guy. And then they go through Marquette, the game that we're going to talk about, and they just absolutely blow Marquette out in the Final Four and D Wade. So that team was absolutely stacked and loaded. And then the year before, you remember we've talked about this on the pod too. The year before was 02 when IU was there.
Right.
And that was when Dick Vitale was going off about reseeding the Final Four once the teams get there because he wanted the Maryland-Kansas game to be the national championship and not have the winner of Oklahoma and Indiana mucking up the championship game in his mind, which we railed on and stuff. But so basically, you look at it and they were – you could argue that they were basically in the national championship game two years in a row with just the way that seeding
could have won it.
So,
could have won it 2 years in a row too.
Man, that team was awesome. Like just the model of consistency and really good. What was interesting in my research was they came in I think number 3 in the country that year off of that Final Four. And they lose 3 of their first 6 games.
Really?
So they're sitting at 3-3, and they drop in the rankings, and then they roll off like 10 in a row. But then they lose 2 in a row again, and then they kind of hit their stride and stuff too. But like I don't remember that rough start. I just remember knowing that Kansas was loading. I thought that they were going to win the whole thing, from the beginning of that year. And I think the big favorite was Arizona. So they ended up in the same bracket. And,
Arizona could have beat him. I mean, that Hinrich, I think one of the underrated things about him, and he became known for this a little bit as a pro, is his defense. And he closes out that Arizona game with some crazy defense on Gardner. I mean, Gardner had a look, but I think you can attribute at least some of him missing that to Hinrich's awesome defense.
It probably helped that Gardner was like 5'6.5", and Hinrich is like 6'1" or something too. Whatever they said Jason Gardner was at Arizona, like shaved 4 inches off of that. So if they said he was 5'8", then he was really 5'4". Like he was, that dude was tiny, man.
Yeah, definitely. And Hinrich's, I think, listed as 6'4". He's listed as a pretty big guard.
Hinrich was sneaky athletic too. There's a play because I watched the Syracuse Kansas 03 championship game not too long ago, and there's a play where he just casually goes baseline out of nowhere, and he doesn't have a great game that game if I remember right, and he just jumps up between 2 dudes and just 2-hand hammers it from the baseline. And I mean, it was so quick and so smooth, but wait, what the hell just happened? I rewound it. Like when I watched it, I'm like, what in the world? So yeah, he was sneaky athletic too. But yeah, those teams were awesome, man.
No doubt. I think that the nice thing too is they filled out the roster with guys who just came in too. You had Langford, Miles was just like a nice compliment with just like the change of pace to Hinrich. And then you had Graves inside, some bruising strength.
Yeah.
And just
so Aaron Miles, if I remember right, Aaron Miles breaks Gottlieb's Big 12 assist record by the end of his career.
I did not know that. That's a good stat.
So I'm almost positive on that. No reference. We don't really check stats here. We just talk and see what sticks.
We'll check it out. He works for Golden State now, the Warriors. So maybe he'll come on.
Oh, does
he?
Yeah. So I'm positive he did that. And then Keith Langford, if you watch those games, such a silky smooth slasher. Wasn't a great shooter, and that's what got him in the NBA or killed him in the NBA. But man, he was a slasher and athletic and just silky smooth and fun to watch. I think he has a soft spot in a lot of KU fans' hearts too.
Absolutely love him in this game too.
Legit,
he was unbelievable in this game. So smooth. Just attacking the basket right off the jump. That's actually our next audio clip, so that's perfect segue. So here we go.
Langford loves to drive, and he delivers.
Bad defense by Townsend gave the baseline drive. We've all seen Langford, a tremendous slasher to the basket.
Out to Miles, and Langford will put this one away.
Great leaper.
Keith, we were talking about the experience for you guys having been in a Final Four last year, being such a huge edge. Was it for you guys tonight?
I think it was this time. I've been thinking this whole time that experience really didn't matter, and we still have to play, but I think we had just a slight edge, and our experience really showed tonight. It was a big factor.
Look at that, Keith Langford and you keying in on the same thing. He thought the experience of the year before, kind of the same thing, helping him get through to that championship game. And they're really close against the in the final as well. Just it's just a game of inches sometimes.
Yeah, they ran into Jerry McNamara. Like McNamara is unconscious in that 03 game. And then they still have a shot to win with Keith Lee, and then you get the Hakeem Warwick block, and obviously you have Melo as the guy. As I was doing the research for the 03 hardwood history description, there was an interesting quote that I came across from Roy Williams, and obviously you can't mention Kansas basketball without mentioning Roy Williams and the job he did. So two things with Roy that I didn't know going into the research, and I'm almost embarrassed that I didn't know this, but I knew that he had come in after Larry Brown, but I did not realize that was only like a couple months after Kansas and Danny and the Miracles, and they won the national championship. And then I knew that there was probation too with Larry Brown. I just remember hearing that about him and his time there. But I didn't I didn't realize that Roy Williams like inherited that, right off the jump in there, and then turned Kansas into what we remember him from the early 90s on into the early 2000s, and then Bill Self obviously taking the torch and from him and continuing that tradition. So I never realized that Larry Brown left Kansas like 2 months after winning the national championship. And then he also says in that 03 game that basically they played the perfect game. It was like that was a crescendo of his time at Kansas, and that was like they just like clicked. And he says at the end, like, I hope we have enough left. Like I hope we save some of that, or like we played our perfect game. We played it, and we might have played it basically a game too early, is what I read into that. Too.
Yeah. It was such a weird thing, right?
Like, he was so desperately trying to get Kansas a natty too, and that would have been a cool way for him to go.
He doesn't
out.
have one at this point either, right?
Right? No, he doesn't have one.
Yeah.
He didn't get one at Kansas, and then this is his final game at. The Marquette game is the second to last game, but the 03 final is his, and I'm pretty sure that's the I don't give a shit about North Carolina quote at the end of the game where they're asking him and pressing him on it, which probably wasn't the right time, not fair, but yeah, exactly. But then he goes to Carolina, he wins 3, and the rest is history.
It's so tough.
Comes in and wins for Kansas.
Well, yeah, no kidding, because we could have had Bill Self too, right? We did that on a past podcast. Sliding doors for coaching.
This is not the podcast to go down that
I
road.
just think that it's so the point in it though was like the choices that coaches have to make. I was listening to PJ Carlesimo on Ryan Russillo, super good interview too. Just talking about his decision to leave the Hall to go out to coach in Portland, and he became the second highest paid coach in the NBA next to Pat Riley. So it's one of those things where it's like, do I pass? I know he had a really great thing going. He's from the East Coast, brought the Hall back. He's got all these fun teams, but sometimes just the allure of something is tough to pass up. And I think that your alma mater or just legacy, it's just you can't pass it up sometimes.
Well, when you also have Dean Smith telling you like we need you.
Yeah.
Last time, I think there's a quote where he says the last time, because he had turned Carolina down before, a few years before, and then on this last pitch, Dean Smith said, "Last time we wanted you, this time we need you," and that's his somewhat father figure and mentor and all that stuff. Like, that's it. It's just tough. And then Roy Williams even says, if I knew how I was going to felt leaving that room after I told my players at Kansas that I was leaving, I would have never done it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I felt that bad about it, but you'd have to wall yourself off a little bit, right? Because it would be hard, because you put those guys put their whole lives into that. Exactly. But yeah, he gave everything to Kansas, and then they get Bill Self, and things continue on as normal. It must be nice to be one of those schools that can go through a
Hey, well, you said you weren't bringing that back up.
And just let the success continue to roll in.
Hey, talk about
we don't know that.
So the 03 shorts. Talk about why you chose to pick those first. Like, what are the design elements of those that you like so much, and that fans of Kansas are going to recognize and be like, oh yeah, just get that feeling.
I love. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but those shorts were like some of my all-time favorites in the early 2000s, and that's right just before Nike goes the system of address or whatever the hell they call it, where they made everybody like look the same, and so people had distinguished uniforms, and they were big on the bubble look, those big bubble sides.
Yeah.
Maryland has those bubble sides too, but their logo goes above it. Kansas goes actually in the bubble when you have KU on one side and the Jayhawk on the other. They're just sweet, and if I remember right, Paul Pierce wore them while he was there. At least 1 year. Drew Gooden wore him while he was there. You have a lot of different like all-time Kansas greats that played in those uniforms too, not just the 02s or 03s, although Gooden was 02 as well. So it's not just Collison and Hinrich, and then that's the end of the Nike era with them too. And I'm not sure if it's 04 when Self comes in and switches everything and everything gets switched to Adidas. But I know that they're at least Adidas by 08 when they win the Natty too. So just kind of bringing those back. And for whatever reason, I'm not the only one that loves them because we get requests for them all the time. And then even in our teasers, people are asking, are you bringing back the 03s? Give me the Collison, give me the Hinrichs. So yeah, I mean they just kind of stand out. There's 3 pairs that kind of fit in that same mold to me. And Bravo, if he was on here, he would tell me that my design elements are off, that those 3 aren't related. But to me, like they are. And it's the Texas 02s with TJ Ford when they go Sweet 16 are a lot like the Marylands, and then the Marylands and the Kansases are a lot alike to me too. And I know, Matt, that they are different in the logo change and everything too, but it's just that same kind of style, and I'm super obsessed with it. And hint, we might have some Texas TJ Ford. We might get to launch all 3 of them at some point here in the near future.
All right.
Yeah.
I
my life's work would. My life's work will then be complete.
I've still got Texas. I'm holding out hope for a tournament run for them. They were my pick earlier in the year, so.
They got to stop fighting each other.
I know. Yeah, the season's long. That's the tough thing. Again, a tough thing about having young people is like keeping it together throughout the year. I love the Aaron Miles Jordan headband too. Another little thing that I loved in this game. I didn't love the shoes. I always look for like if there's any shoes that stand out to me in the game.
Early 2000s
not my
were
favorite.
brutal.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out.
I know that Ian Stonebrook and Nick DePaul will get on here and throw some shit out there about some of these shoes being like great.
No.
And I know that those guys know a million more things about shoes than I do, but I'm here to tell you like that shit was broke. I hated all of those.
I was
shoes.
trying to figure out if Nash, one of the subs, if he had some kind of foam posits on, but I couldn't tell. And
maybe Langford usually wore Jordans.
He had some black shoes on too. I was going to say that.
Okay.
He had everybody else had some kind of white shoes on. He had some black shoes on, so setting himself apart a little bit there too. Just looking a little different, playing a little different, lefty. Just good style, the style to that guy's game. What else stood out to you? Let's talk about a few of the game moments. Anything stand out? So I mean, it was really the first half, that I think they established control, and it was tough. I mean, Dwayne Wade, despite them not winning, he looks awesome in this. I mean, he glides around the court and is clearly an incredible player. And Kansas they're just a better team. He was maybe the best player on the floor besides Langford, but I mean, his team just wasn't on the same caliber on this night.
Well, I was the one that suggested that we watch this game, and then I did not watch the game. I looked at the score, and the score told me everything I needed to know. So I know that team. I've watched that team multiple times in different games that I've watched. And so I just said, "The hell with it! I'm not watching that game. I'll let Meyer watch it and tell me what happens."
Well, good. I'm gonna keep breaking it down for you then.
It's like a 33-point blowout in the Final Four. Like I don't need to watch that shit. Like I'll watch something better.
Well, they're fun to watch just because they are like super fast breaking team. So Kansas just runs an incredibly like modern offense, like grabbing it off the rim.
Billy Packer's still on the call too.
Outlets. He's on the call. And just a super fast game that is really exciting from the jump. And they look awesome. I also had to point out, can't wait to see small desks back. I'm kind of tired of watching all the announcers sit 32 feet apart. At the end of the game, the guys are all sitting right next to each other. I'm like, wow, that looks so strange right now. I'm so used to seeing everybody 22 feet apart, like exaggerated desk spaces. So I'm really hoping those go away after the COVID. It's not just a permanent feature on these desks. I think it looks a little silly.
I'll keep my comments to myself on all
that.
Yeah.
Well, let's hit the 19-9 moment because we got a Hinrich one that's pretty good. Here we go.
Pro line is 23 feet 4 inches. The college line is 19.9, 19 feet 9 inches.
Underneath.
Again, the Jayhawks trying to get numbers.
Pull up three. Hinrich, make sure he's on behind the 3 line. Yes.
Collison and Hinrich, two guys that were co-Mr. Basketball in high school in Iowa, played together for so long, just had a feel for themselves there.
Forces Marquette to take the timeout. You can see Hinrich in the corner. He looked down to make sure the toes were not on the line.
They just break their back with those threes. So, he's pulling up at the top of the key. You know how that is too. Playing the basketball you have, if you can just dribble up, don't even need to pass and just pull up for 3 and splash it on people when you're already on a run, it just is like crippling to the other team. And then
there's literally nothing than a pull-up transition 3 to murder somebody.
Just kill someone's spirit, right? Like what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And then the other one too, he gets it and he has enough time to like look down at the 3-point line, get his feet behind it, and still it's like, where is everyone? It just was
nowhere. It was a 33-point win or whatever it was. Like, yeah, they weren't there.
They weren't there.
Like, if you were looking for Marquette to do anything in this game, we picked the wrong game.
No.
But if we ever do a Marquette game, in fairness, we'll do the
game before. Oh my gosh! Well, they coming in
Kentucky.
Where you've got Diener and Novak, and when they were calling those guys out, because I'd forgotten about them a little bit, I hadn't looked at them as much. But I was like, wow, I can't believe it was this, because those guys seemed like a nice compliment to take on Kansas, but they just had both of them had bad games. They had no answers. Yeah, they
ran into a great team, perfect storm, and that can happen, man.
Absolute,
that can happen.
Absolute buzzsaw. So the what age the best? I had the Kansas fast break looking completely modern, and Dwayne Wade looking just unbelievable. That guy, that young athletic Dwayne Wade. I'm willing to go back and watch that Kentucky game because it's fun to watch that guy play basketball.
Triple double in that.
Yeah,
triple double in that. I would say the uniforms. I say the uniforms every time you ask me.
You're right.
We do this thing.
One thing I was going to ask you.
We have the 03 Marquettes too. So, and we have the white version of those coming out in March.
One thing I want to get your take on: the uniforms move a little bit. Are you a fan of that? They kind of like swoosh back and forth, and I was like, I kind of miss that. It looks kind of cool.
They do. Well, they're a little bit baggier, a lot baggier.
Yeah,
they're a lot baggier, so there's a lot more room. I remember D Wade's jersey would like flow around all over the place. I always felt like, but yeah, I mean. There's just a lot of material there, man. It's gonna flow around. It's gonna move around.
I liked it though. Like it makes it makes them look faster almost, or something like that.
They're not nearly as sleek though, too. Like Nike has fine-tuned the performance of those jerseys. I mean, that's
well, they don't weigh anything anymore. I think it's more like a weight.
Anymore.
Yeah,
and like the stitching and stuff move differently because that was like a heavy stitching and embroidery and all that good stuff of yesteryear.
No doubt. Well, you got anything else, man?
No, sir.
All right, I'm going to get you out of here.
Thank you for listening to the 19-9 podcast. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do. And while you're at it, leave us a rating or review. It helps keep us going. We also have links to all of 19-9's social media so you never miss a release. Until next time.